we talked about, obviously, I think junior domestic, which is, like I said, an important part of taking your next step from I want to play basketball, okay, and like, I like basketball. What can I do here? And you will get a mixed bag in junior domestic. That's the reality, because that's where everyone has to start. That's where coaches have to start. Okay, that's where referees ultimately start, right? You get all your green shirts at junior domestic. Okay, it's probably at the under 8s and under 10s level. That's the point. Okay, everyone has to start there. Okay, and from there, you can obviously then go into your VJBL rep, obviously Friday night competition, starting at under 12. So, you'll be at the youngest, generally about 9 or 10 years old, in that sort of sense. And from there, obviously then progressing, looking at other options outside of that once a week game and twice a week training generally, is like things like basketball schools, like, or schools with basketball programs, which there are a few around in Melbourne and all around Australia nowadays. And then you've obviously got your sort of your elite sort of training squads and sessions there too, which generally you pay, obviously, a weekly or monthly or term sort of fee, which then those coaches are often ex-players, ex-professional players from some capacity, which will they continue to coach and teach your kids skill sets and stuff to obviously assist them in their game there. And it's all part and parcel of the whole process, I think, here. Because, well, firstly, let's just go back to the point here. It's all part and parcel of the process from a repetition perspective. Okay, it's all about the same things, but adding layers to it. Okay, as a coach here, it's like, cool, you can make a layup. Can you make a reverse layup? Yeah. Can you now make a reverse layup with your weak hand coming on the other side? And so on and so forth, because there's so many components, and I'm only talking about one area of the game, and ultimately it's just scoring and shooting, okay? All right, that it's all about being able to have enough repetitions to be able to go out there and do, well, a perfect basketball player will be one that can do anything on the floor. Okay, that's the key here. And I guess, all of these options through the rep program, obviously through a basketball sort of school program, and obviously through any sort of elite sort of training programs as well, is simply challenging your player, okay, and your child to obviously be able to add more things to their game. And I think they're all beneficial depending on obviously your level of investment and commitment and resources you have to obviously support your child in their passion here.
Yeah, I think obviously everything that you mentioned, the pathways, it doesn't necessarily start with junior basketball, but you have to put it in perspective that if you begin later in life, the chances of your pathway going much beyond just social are pretty low. And then, yeah, obviously with the under 8s, under 10s, they're also grading. I think we've made a couple of references to it, but really didn't tackle into it. Grading exists for a reason. So, starting at the bottom grade, a lot of people connotate that as, oh, I'm really, really bad. I've played bottom grade, I've played top grade, and everything in between. You play it for different reasons. Some people are really good and play bottom grade because they just want to have a more social, relaxed experience. Some people play A grade, but they're not A grade players, but, they're on a team that is carried enough by that. So, you want to find a team that is developing you appropriately, and your competition is hopefully designed to be accommodating to that. Now, for boys basketball, it's really easy. You typically can get a pretty good parity in the league, and it's okay. Female basketball gets a bit more tricky because the numbers are always lower, and sometimes you do have that team that just demolishes everyone. And technically speaking, as a parent of a child on a team like that, that's not necessarily good, right? And that's where our result fixation can sometimes bite us in the butt, because you might blitz the competition, but there's a lot of reasons why you're blitzing the competition that may or may not be directly correlated with your skill. And constant winning is never good. Like I had a season where we won every game until the grand final, in which, therefore the season would be deemed unsuccessful. We had so much success during it that it was just, coded in everything. And it's the same for losing. I've been on teams where you win 1 or 2 games in a season, but, there's games within the game. Right. So, all right, if you're going to lose every game this season, well, what are we working on, right? Do we want to cut our point differential down? Do we want to, develop specific skills? Do we want to get everyone an even spread? There's things that you can do constantly across that. that is just the entry level thing, right? So obviously when you go to rep basketball, there's tryouts that are involved with that as well. And, typically coaches are pretty good at giving people good information about that. You know, um, don't be a pushy parent if a coach is legitimately steering you away from that right now. If they're telling you, don't do it, right? Don't do it. Because I think we both are well aware, there are clubs, the rep clubs that will happily have your child on a rep basketball team, knowing full well that that child's not going to touch the court more than a couple of minutes per game, and will still collect the $300, $400 and the uniform cost of $200, and have you driving all around the city or all around the state doing things when your child is a part of it but isn't really playing. Now, yes, the training may be high quality, but is that the best use of your time and money? And then there's also the mental aspect of, well, if you think it's bad in under eights when your child's only getting 18 minutes, how's your 13 or 14-year-old going to feel when they are just high-fiving and cheering everybody, and has driven an hour and a half to do it? So
Yeah, look, I think, yeah, it's all about that fundamentals of not only skills, but expectations, and the fundamentals of the correct support, which we touched upon tonight. That if you, like you just alluded to, if you think that it's all going to be divvied up and fair every game, you're going to be awfully disappointed once you take it to the next level. And if you're not deserving of the minutes that you're obviously given, then you're going to be awfully disappointed and shocked why it's not just a fair world out there, why it's just all given to you in that sense. So I think that's and I think the other point here is that by the time you get to, I think the rep, there's a few points here. Okay, we touched upon the three areas here where there's pathways from I love basketball, I'm a kid, I love basketball, my parents are supportive. Okay, where can I go? And they all sort of tie together. There's no real set that one pathway. Okay, because the elite training, for example, which can be quite expensive at times, and you'll get different trainers that work in different intensity and different ways and different methods and so on and so forth. So again, finding the right one that your player sort of enjoys and sort of the game sort of develops in the way that you're looking for, what you're hoping to achieve in that sort of sense, is important. But that's a core component that often parents don't always take, because maybe it's expensive. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Okay, it's expensive. I send my kid there for a while too, and it can be expensive. You get up at 6 a.m. in the morning, potentially 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. You go do that before school for 90 minutes or something like that. Okay, but you'll get a lot out of that because the commitment to succeed, firstly, is there. Okay, because it's that ingraining that expectation of what you'll need to do to be successful and to be able to maximize your game. And maximize your game doesn't mean you're going to be LeBron. Maximize your game means you're going to be the best version of you. Okay, and I think that's the key. So these elite trainings obviously set that expectation for the player that I will have to sacrifice getting up in the morning. I might not like it, but I'll do it because I want to get better. Then obviously, if you were to consider like a basketball school and program and things like that, again, it puts you in the right sort of environment to continue to give you a repetition. Okay, your repetitions and the surrounding, I don't know what you want to call it, the right group of friendships, that obviously are like-minded. You'll be with other kids that have the same passion, that also probably get up at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning to work on the game, that go home and shoot hoops till it gets dark and then play 2K at night. Okay, it's that sort of the same sort of group, because hey, if they're not in that sort of group, then they play hang out with the group that goes, hey, let's go to this party. Okay, they play hang out with that group that says, let's go do other things that you're probably not basketball related. That's the thing. Okay, and then it all then boils down to that VJBL experience where, again, from Australia, okay, is really your only really sort of pathway to go from VJBL to maybe once you're older, youth league or senior men's competitive sort of, professional or semi-professional basketball. And obviously the NBL 1 and NBL now that, it's obviously starting to grow back again, or obviously travel overseas and play, professionally one day, when you're older in that sense, whatever that might be, not just the NBA, it could be Europe or China, or, those sort of countries in that sense, that the VJBL, your goal there is to bring it all together there. Okay, because again, the reality here is that I'll say this right now: the VJBL is a mixed bag. Okay, it's a mixed bag because again, coaches will do a handful of seasons from a domestic perspective and jump over there, and you might get a kid that's 20, or you might get a guy that's 40. All right, you might get a guy that's 55 and sort of still preaching the 1990s way of basketball, okay, versus obviously say maybe an ex-player that obviously has really been there and done that and had a first-hand career from a basketball perspective. And the point here, it's a mixed bag, so you have to take all these components together to then maximize it into the VJBL and the Friday night games, okay, which then allows you to showcase what you can do, okay, because I think the last sort of points I guess I want to touch upon in this whole podcast here is that it's like anything. It's whether you're next LeBron or whether you're even going to be a professional player, it's being able to show people what you can do. Okay, so and that would go for any sort of sport. Okay, and I think the beauty here is that it's not necessarily only because I score the most points. Okay, and unfortunately, it's not always simply just because I'm the tallest kid on the floor. Is that am I a player that my motor runs hot the whole 40 minutes? Okay, whether on the bench or off the bench, whether I'm missing all my shots or I'm not, whether I'm still playing as hard as I can play, and whether I'm able to do whatever is being asked of me on the floor. So whether that's going left or right, whether it's a left-hand layup or right-hand layup, or whether I'm open at the three-point line, I can shoot that three. Okay, whether I miss it or make it, hopefully I make it more often than not, but I still shoot it. That's the point. I still shoot it. Okay, and I think that's sort of what ultimately your culmination of years. Let's be clear. We've now gone from where you're starting off as a under 8s to where you're hoping to get to now, potentially at the under 16s or under 18 sort of level. Okay, that that's what you're hoping to be able to develop, and it's all fundamentals. Because if you miss some of these steps, and I'll admit that obviously as a parent and as a coach, you do sometimes miss some of these steps. Okay, that it's hard to sometimes be consistent yourself. Okay, in that sort of sense, but if everyone plays their part, then it really does create the right sort of environment for the player to become the best player that they can be.